Guys, what an amazing start to the evening. Thank you for starting us off in worship and leading us in that. So tonight, we not only want to worship, but we want to talk a little bit about worship music. So I've got a few questions I'd love for us to dialogue on, and the first one's this. So we know what 2020 had for us, and now that we're entering into 2021, this year, we know that there's still so many unknowns in the music industry and life in our world. And here's a question. What does worship music specifically have to offer people who are still wrestling with fear and anxiety and so much of the unknown?
That's a great question. I think so often music is talked all throughout the Bible. You could turn to so many different pages and you're seeing things about music. And so, from the beginning, it's one of those things where it does something. Now, what does it do for me? And I think for so many people, there's an art to just listening and the peace that comes from that. And then when you have music that is centered, that is Jesus-centered, Christ-centered, it takes it to a whole other level. And so for me, I'm thinking it's those things that are life-changing, because we hear music all the time, but when you hear music with a purpose, and when you're singing about something that matters, it's life-changing. And I think it can bring a peace when nothing else can. And that's only through Jesus, but he uses the music, I think.
Yeah. Jason, that's great. And by the way, can you introduce the band?
Sure. This is my friend Rodney Mora. He's from Venezuela.
Yes. Rodney.
And then these two go together. This is Jose Mendoza. He is also from Venezuela. They are from different cities. And I never even met them until they came to college in Kentucky. They met in Kentucky, and that's where we met. And
we came to learn English.
They did learn English
in Kentucky.
In Kentucky.
In Kentucky.
Yep. When you see the band,
hey y'all.
That's right.
I'll tell you what right now. Son.
Yeah.
When you see the band, one of them has a microphone and one doesn't, so you can figure out who learned a little better than the other. But and then this is our friend Aaron Crozier. He is from Kentucky. We met him in college as well, and he's not been in the band quite as long, but we begged him to join this band when we were in college, and he was in this really cool rock band with his brothers, and eventually we got him into this band. So
great. Well, that's a great introduction to the next and last question is this. So music is so powerful.
Yeah.
Worship music is such a powerful means to heal people's souls, to express the human heart. So what led you guys into worship music as a mission or a ministry?
Sure. That's a great question. I sang in church my whole life. My grandma had a gospel group, and they traveled all around every little church in the country we were singing at somewhere. And so that's all I knew for a long time. And I actually only learned to play the guitar so I could play for my grandma. And that was just a big part of my life. And so I just grew up singing in church my whole life. I'm from a little town called Canova, West Virginia. It's right across the river from where I live in Kentucky now. But I grew up in this just gospel, Southern gospel country bubble, And my little church, we didn't have much of a youth group. And in the 9th grade, I got invited to the big Baptist church in town. And huge youth group, and they had a praise band. I had never seen that before. I didn't know that existed. I had never heard those songs. All this new worship stuff that was happening at that time, I'd never heard it before. And just completely just rocked my world in a whole new way that I had never experienced. And I grew up singing these songs about God and all these beautiful old songs of the faith that we still sing today. And all of a sudden I'm hearing this new stuff that it was like I had this direct connection to God, and I'm singing directly to God, and it just completely changed my perspective. And I lived in that bubble so much that this guy walks in the church one day, and I'm the only person in the room that doesn't know who he is. And I'm thinking, okay, this is kind of a big deal, I can tell. And it was Michael W. Smith. He's from that town. He grew up in that same church, and I didn't know who he was until I was in the 9th grade. And so that's how much I didn't know of that world. And so through my high school years, all of a sudden, I'm just meshing all that together. And then once I got in college, we started the band, and it totally went from there. So the Lord really made that happen for me, because I didn't mean for the band to happen. It was just something. I loved music. I loved singing. And then all of a sudden, we were like in a worship band, and we really didn't even necessarily know what that was. But all we wanted to do was go sing for people and hopefully somehow connect them and facilitate this like worship experience. And that's when it kind of morphed into what it is. And then years later, it's all we do now. I mean, that's really our whole goal. So,
well, thank you for being on mission.
yeah.
What about you guys? What led you into worship music as a ministry?
Rodney, tell yours.
I grew up in church, and all I known was music, Christian music, and there's a Hispanic. I'm from Venezuela, so there's a Hispanic worship leader that really influenced my life, and I noticed how I used to mimic how he would do things. You know, I play the piano, and he used to lead from the piano, so it was something that it just really stuck with me. And I remember as a teenager having the opportunity to lead worship at my church, and it really set me up not only to do what I do now, but to understand why we do it. And I had a great pastor who taught me, you know, the ins and outs and our purpose in life. And worship is not just music. It's not just, you know, singing songs. It's a lifestyle. So it was great for me to understand that, because then I put it to use through my music, you know, through what I do. And when I had the opportunity to come and meet Jason and join the band, it just kind of, I went right into it, you know. It just, I never skipped a beat. So it's been great.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, listen, on behalf of Yamaha, on behalf of NAMM, and all the merchants that are being led in worship by you tonight, thank you. Thank you for ministering to us, and thank you for being on mission.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
pleasure. Yeah,
so y'all let's get back at it.